So, it's time. Welcome to the music working group session here at IETF 103 in Bangkok. We have a note taker. Thank you to Krister and the Jabber relay, Jonathan. I am Bo Burman, by the way, and by my side is my co-chair, Fleming.
Special guest of honor.
Here is the IETF note well. Although the design looks like the old one, this is actually the new text. If you haven't read it, please do so. We have the blue sheets out. We have a JavaScript and note taker, and all of you are experienced IETF participants, so you know the drill. The regular document review requests, and today's agenda. We have a status update. We have a proposal for a charter update for music. And we have one presentation by Ronnie about the DCSA attribute registration, the Web2C data channel attributes. So for the working group status, it's basically the same as it was the last time. We have a whole lot of documents since long in the RFC editor queue, in the famous, maybe even infamous cluster 238, waiting for one another. And we had a minor update of the bundle negotiation in the time between this meeting and the last one. Updating a reference, basically. We have one document, the data channel SDP neg, publication requested, and in AD follow-up. It's also on the agenda today. We have two documents waiting for write-up, the SDP BIS and the IZIP SDP that has some editorial comments. We have two other drafts that are alive in the working group. We have the key share document that needs some rewrite based on review comments. And we have the data channel MSRP draft that has died in the working group. We decided not to pursue that one. It will soon expire. And we didn't have any expert reviews since last meeting. As for the summary of the RTC web dependencies that we presented previously also, there is only one document that is not in the RFC editor's queue, and that's the IZIP SDP. That has some minor editorial update and the write-up remaining.
Krista, just a small comment. I think we've seen that this MUX attributes draft will need some updates based on the comments on IZIP SDP. Based on the comments on BFCP BIS, because there are some attributes and the MUX category for those are defined as TBD, but in this draft they have another value. So I think that's gonna.
Okay.
I assume that has to be done in the working group. I'm not saying we need to take the draft back, but I guess maybe Ben can talk about the procedures, but it will need an update.
Thank you.
I think we just need to make sure that the working group is aware And I don't think we need to pull it back unless you think we're talking about material changes here, which I don't think we are.
So going further to the next agenda point, we have a proposal on a charter update for MMUSIC, triggered by the fact that ICE working group, and I have the ICE, one of the ICE chairs in the room. Maybe you would like to say something, but basically they did conclude on all their milestones.
Ari Keränen, ICE co-chair. So yes, we have pretty much done with all our documents. And there's no new documents that have been up and coming. We've been waiting for the infamous cluster to finalize and make sure there's no new things that need to be done in ICE. But at least at the moment, it seems that we are ready and we could be declaring success.
Okay, so the proposal so far has been that since the, do you want to go first? Since the ICE documents were actually initiated in MMUSIC and further developed in the ICE working group, the proposal is that MMUSIC should continue to maintain the ICE specifications. And thus the MMUSIC charter would need an update in that case.
This is Ben Campbell. I'm actually relaying a comment that Ecker made to me in one of the IESG meetings earlier in the week, which was to ask if we really need to add that to the charter versus handling new maintenance and extensions as we would handle any new work. He asked the question, one question he asked, and I think the answer to that would be, depending on what part of ICE we're doing maintenance on. If we're talking about core timing things, that sort of thing, if MMUSIC is the place with the right expertise for that, I think that my reaction to that is, well, it's the same people wherever we do it. So I don't have strong feelings. I just wanted to relay that was a comment that was made. He can't be here to make the comment for himself. So it's something to think about. Ecker.
Ronnie, I have a question about it. So what does it mean? It means that it will go to dispatch if there are any changes in ICE, if it's not on the charter for MMUSIC?
It depends on the nature of the change, but that would be likely.
So it will go first to dispatch, you assume.
I guess one thing that comes down to here is how much of this are we expecting?
Can't really judge on that. Any comment from the ICE?
John Williams, as an individual, I think a few years ago, people had a number of ideas of things to extend ICE with, which they didn't get, eventually they lost energy in doing them. I'm not sure how much of that was because they were just, all the energy went to just getting WebRTC finished instead. And that might come back when people think that's all good and stable. Or maybe they'll decide, okay, the ICE we have is good enough. And it's really kind of hard to say. Or maybe they'll say, we want to do everything over quick, and it's a new world.
You want to burn out first?
Okay.
Yeah, I think the situation is a little bit worse than that, Jonathan. There have been proprietary extensions to ICE that have actually shipped, and in fairly large deployments. So they did tire the IETF, but they just went and shipped it, and it's a reality now.
Bernard, do you think they're likely to ever bring that back to the IETF?
Some of it's expressed in drafts, and I think my concern is that it's not at all clear how it works in all of the corner cases. So I think if there were to be some charter work on it, it might help at least to elucidate how things are supposed to work. Right now, obviously the drafts we published are good enough to interoperate with, but interoperating with what's out in the field is actually pretty difficult. You have to do a lot of reverse engineering.
Okay. So it seems from the chair's point of view, I think we're good either way, and we're also open to that anything can happen, and depending on the nature of the change, it should probably anyway go via dispatch. It might not necessarily end up in MMUSIC for that.
This is Ben. I have another question for Bernard. If we were to take that work back up, is it the kind of thing you would consider maintenance, or is it the kind of thing you would consider significant rework?
I would not consider it maintenance because some of I'm thinking of things like renomination. There are things that are, I think would consider to be fairly core to ICE itself and the way it operates. And so it would be the kind of thing that would need significant analysis. I would think I don't consider it just a maintenance. Some of these things are, I mean, you might consider it an extension, but it's not a minor thing necessarily.
So this could almost be a ICE biz sort of thing, if it were to happen.
It depends how far you want to go. I think the energy for a complete rewrite is relatively low, but if there were targeted things that could demonstrate significant performance enhancements, that would be a little bit different. Or, alternatively, if you went through some of these things and were able to prove that they didn't provide performance enhancement, that would also be useful. But people seem to believe they do. It's just there are a number of things that have been extensions that have been made where people claim performance enhancement, and that maybe the data is there, maybe it isn't. But
this is Chris. Yeah, I read a few of those drafts, and they're definitely not maintenance. I mean, I don't remember by heart all of them, but we had continuous nomination. We have
right.
Those kind of things, which is really new functionality.
Yeah.
I have also talked with the author, but I guess he should speak for himself whether he plans to bring them here or not. But last time I talked with him, there were no plans.
Yeah, continuous nomination is another example of something that's shipping in fairly large volume.
So are those drafts targeting the ICE working group, or I'm just wondering if it would make sense to not close down ICE if there are such work foreseen to have ICE dormant until that type of drafts come up.
So yeah, so of course that is one option, but I'm thinking more kind of how to get the work done point of view. We are a relatively small group. When ICE work was originally in MMUSIC, there was a lot of people, a lot of drafts, a lot of activity, then it made a lot of sense to split the ICE away. Now we are a much smaller group, much smaller amount of documents, and it's same people, MMUSIC, ICE. Therefore, I think even given that, doing it in MMUSIC actually would make sense. Maybe we need to tweak the charter a bit, order the proposals and extensions to it as needed. So if that work can be considered as extension, personally, I think it would make sense to do it with MMUSIC.
Yeah, Jonathan, the next my inclination would be to say do it through MMUSIC unless something comes up where it looks like it's big enough that that it would need its own working group, at which case spin up a new mini working group or resurrect ICE 6 and 1. Exactly, yes. That's it, yeah, exactly. So this language would match that my idea. So
this has been again, and we'll leave consensus choices to the chairs, but what I'm hearing is that people think it's reasonable to put something scoped like this, which would be small work in MMUSIC, and that MMUSIC is the right place to do that sort of thing, but that we don't want MMUSIC to take on a fundamental rewrite or ICE biz sort of thing without a recharter. Right. Well, the process of new work has a lot of ways it can come in. It can be dispatch, or what dispatch does is a recommendation. There's a number of ways we can do those, but in any case, I don't think we're taking on something like ICE biz without rechartering wherever it goes. Tara.
Bernard, did you have another comment?
Well, just that I think there's part of this would be there would be an empirical aspect where, because I think a lot of it is about performance optimization, and I don't know that that's necessarily MMusic's forte, but I think you basically have to have some way of proving that these things make sense if they're all about performance, and they're all about optimization. You kind of have to show that in fact you do optimize. So that's just, I think you have to be a little bit systematic about some of these kind of things, and I don't know whether MMusic has got the stomach for talking about milliseconds saved or data, experiments or things like that.
This has been, again, question to all of the chairs in the room, ICE and the music chairs. How many people are active in ICE that don't come in? How many people were active in ICE that don't also participate in MMusic? I don't know the answer. This is not a rhetorical question.
Ari Keränen, I haven't had a chance to follow MMusic that closely recently, but I would assume that's that's like beyond myself. It's a kind of small set of people.
John, I think there's a set of people who, if the IETF is doing work they're interested in, will go wherever it is, and if they're not, will not show up in any group. So.
And also on the topic of like getting the right people who have the stomach to talk about these things. I mean, we can pull people from different communities when that's what it takes. I mean, I think with the help of our ADs and others, like we did that, for example, in the ICE group when we needed transport expertise. We got a bunch of transport people there, and I did the discussions in ICE group. I'm sure we can do something similar in MMusic. I don't think that's a big problem. But of course, I do agree with Bernard. We do need the right people to understand that. Maybe that's not that natural place in MMusic, but I think we can work it.
I expect that we, to some extent, can make that happen actually as chairs, to encourage people to participate in the degree that would be needed.
Okay, this is Ben again. Then I will ask the chairs if this is what they agree that they want to do, to send me text of an updated charter with this or however you want it to read, and I'll start the process.
Like an example of something you would do if you really wanted to get activity would be to have a hackathon, have several of these extensions, implement it, do tests, see, whether they perform, provide any optimization. It would be a fairly focused and intense activity. I'm not saying that people would I don't know that people would sign up to do it, but that would be the kind of thing I think you'd have to organize if you wanted to make progress on it.
Bernard, do you think there needs to be some charter text that says you would need to do that sort of thing?
Well, I think there needs to be, let me put it this way. I think there needs to be, I'm not going to say that there's enough interest to make this happen, but if the desire is there to make it happen, I think you have to have some framework put in place for it. Like I said, it's optimization, so if you can't prove that it actually optimizes anything, it's somewhat pointless. So you'd have to have an emphasis on, hackathons or empirical data provided, or something that provides a basis for discussion, and that seems like it would need to be in the charter.
Let's consider talk about with the charter maybe adding another sentence that just points out that whatever change, any kind of new ICE extensions we do will need demonstrated interest from the community.
I'd say interest and value.
Well, sometimes we have to have the interest first to find out about the value.
Exactly, that's the problem. The interest first, and then the value.
That's always true. That's good.
Yeah, but if that makes sense to include in the charter, I think yes, we do that. Okay, so I only have one more slide, and that would be the entire text of the proposed charter with the change that was expressed on the previous slide, not taking into account the most recent discussion, of course. Bernard, want to go to the line again, or? Yeah.
Bernard, just enter the queue again if you wanted to say something.
And in any case, it's a pretty small change. We basically added the sentence as before.
Jonathan, I'm not sure the charter needs to contain the history lesson of where the ice was defined. We should say the second sentence of the bullet point.
Yeah. Noted. And that was it for the chairs. Ronnie, welcome to the floor, unless we have more comments.
The pink. Hi, I'm Ronnie Evan. So I'm trying to finish the data channel SDP negotiation. Version 21, which I submitted recently, did some address some of the comment made. I think most of the comment made by Ben as in the area director review. So we need to look, but there was an, go to next slide. But there was the data channel setup can be done using either the in-band data channel establishment protocol, DSEP, or using out-of-band non-DSEP protocol. This document specifies, just a recap, how the SDP offer-answer exchange can be used to achieve an out-of-band non-DSEP negotiation. Normative reference by CLUE data channel document and CLUE signaling to this document, and that's why I would like to finish this document, to finish also CLUE. Next slide. So the open issue that I had from the review, which it's good that it was reviewed because I missed it when I was doing the document. Does the SDP DCSA attribute allows the negotiation of a data channel sub-protocol attribute? I give here the DCSA attribute are SDP attributes that are specified to be used on the DCSA level that is similar to the SSRC attribute RFC 5576 that has its own registry. So this is the SDP definition. The name is DCSA value, and what's there is that the syntax is stream ID and then attribute, which is from RFC 4566, which means can be any attribute from RFC. But the text says, I mean, not everything is viable for not everything can be really used as in the DCSA level, but most of them can be used. And as an example, it has here that the last line, A equal DCSA2 accept type text / plain, for example. So this is so the last part is an SDP attribute. So and the current IANA consideration in section 9.3 of the document introduced a new DCSA usage level of the SDP media description to the IANA SDP attribute field registry. The problem is that there's no such way to describe it because the IANA registry doesn't have this level, and that will go to the next slide. So to address this, just the last bullet. So the proposal is to define a new registry attribute field DCSA level, since there is no option to add a usage level to the current attribute field registry. Now, when I put this on the list, this question, there was a comment from Paul Kizevich, which is the next slide, and he said that there was a discussion in the past to reorganize the attribute field registry. Currently, we have the following attribute fields. We have attribute field session level, attribute field both session and media level only, source level, and unknown level. We have all these registries. and an attribute can be registered in more than one of them. So the proposal was to merge them into one registry and have the usage level as a column inside this the registry itself. Now, this is not, I mean, and that's what our area director said. I mean, this is nothing. I mean, this should not be done by the document that I'm editing. If we want to do it, then it needs to be done. I think I don't know if it requires any document or just requires some work to prepare to Diana how to merge them into one registry. I don't know how to do this. The question whether we should do this, and if we do that, then the other question would be, should I wait for that with my document, or should I do a specific registry and that will be merged later? I don't have. That's why I came it as an open issue. I don't know how to go with it. I'm looking for advice.
This has been. I'm not going to give you advice on that second part of the question. I will comment on the first part of what you said, which was, what does it take to do this kind of reorganization? And I think that IANA would probably like to see a draft that might be nothing but IANA considerations, that probably updates the RFCs for these things that created this stuff, just to tell them what to do. It could be really short.
And define how do the change and everything. I mean, all this,
they would probably,
because it's a new registry, basically.
Fleming, just as individual, I mean, we actually already have that in the 4566 BIS draft. That reorganization has been put in there. So we just haven't gotten through with the publication request. The document is ready, 4566 BIS. Yeah, so, but I mean, it's, it's coming, right? Within the next couple of weeks.
Okay, I didn't see that. I mean, so you said in 4566 BIS, there's just one registry?
Yes.
Oh. So I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I wasn't aware. I mean, I didn't look at 4566 BIS, and Paul didn't point to that. So he said it just that.
He did?
No, he didn't.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I mean, he was following 4566 BIS, so I was surprised he didn't say anything about it.
Yeah, I mean, he's even one of the co-authors.
Yeah, so that's why.
Let me double check on that to make sure that I'm not getting something mixed up. But it's in there. I mean, I'm pretty sure we're talking about the same thing here.
Yeah. If it so we don't have I don't have a problem with
it. I mean, making this draft dependent on 4566 BIS seems not certainly. I mean, it puts 46 BIS in the clue dependency chain, but it's not the end of the world.
Okay, if I think about these, I know the answers, I think, but I'm just going to ask. This is a cluster 238 dependency, right?
No, I don't.
It is not.
I mean, no, it's not. It's a. It used to, but it's not anymore. It's just on for the clue. There's a dependency. On
okay, never mind.
So it's not a problem. Okay, so if we assume that, can you look at 4566? Oh, okay, so down dependent, so it's there. Okay, so
unless there's a subtlety somewhere.
okay, so I don't, so no issue. So I'll just, so what I'll do, I'll just go according to 4566 BIS and update, and we'll wait for it to IANA for that.
I believe so. Yeah.
Okay. So it looks like 4566 BIS merged already those registries. So at least for the document that I'm editing, that's no problem. I'll just update it, just write what is the level there. But I think, and that's for Jonathan maybe, because
actually this is DCS. Is this DCSA? The 4566 BIS already has DCSA in it. So I think maybe
no, but it's not the DCSA. It's the usage. What can be used by DCSA level, not the DCSA attribute.
No. DCSA is one of the levels in the 4566 BIS.
Oh, okay.
So I think 4566 BIS might depend on this.
Okay.
But I think it's already done. So
okay, and so I have a question here. If we're looking at it, I mean, in the past there was this on the source level. There were some other attributes that we didn't include, that are not included in. Is it also going to be? Is the new registry just reflect what's the current registry, or is it also an opportunity for us to update the registry with the usage level for more attributes, for example, for source level? Or...
Well, I think in general, the idea is that the new document doesn't add any levels to existing attributes. I think that there are actually documents that did that because the problem is you can't just do it mechanically. You have to specify what it means.
Yeah.
In all cases, so you can't just
Okay.
there has to be something that defines that. But yeah, I think maybe the assumption had been that this document would beat 4566 bits to completion, so 4566 bits would update this, but it didn't. So, or maybe it still could, and we could publish it like this, and it would then 4566 bits would update this. But
so I don't think. So, thank you for updating me because I wasn't aware of that.
So this is Ben, just to make sure I understand, then the fix for this is just to rationalize this to 4566 bits, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
And we'll need to put the dependency in my document to 4566 bits because the registry cannot register. I cannot do the registry.
The other way around.
It's both sides because I cannot do the Diana registry without having the registry ready.
It's a small cluster.
Because we've got cluster shock. Be careful with clusters.
I think it'll be a cluster of two.
Okay.
Okay. And with that, we have no further issues unless we have more comments on this topic. So in that case, we can close the session for today. Thank you for participating.
So that's careful.
I know. I'm not certain about this yet. I'm trying to hold 3 conversations and try to work this out, so I'm operating at reduced capacity. But Martin Thompson, isn't this how we signal priority when it comes to the WebRTC usage of this?
No.
No, it's not?
No.
Okay.
This is
Because it's got a priority field there that corresponds to the one.
there was Jonathan, there was a bunch of stuff in WebRTC that was WebRTC deliberately made the decision this is not going to be an SDP, it's only going to be in the JavaScript APIs. And that was and basically this is the document that says if you're not using WebRTC, you're just using SDP offer answer, this is how you do the equivalent things.
Trying to figure that out myself right now.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not.
Okay.
Any other comments? All right. We're good. Thank you.
Basically, the work has been done, especially if they want to standardize your existing code. That was the interest for us. Yeah. Basically, if you look at this clear, that's where we go and do the work.
It doesn't matter
Where we do it. And if we can't, it doesn't matter where we say we would want it to show up.
Well, I suppose having waving a yellow flag out there that says, here's a place to do this work, you haven't shown up might be encouraging.
My understanding was.
But maybe, the other browsers can tell them, if you want us to operate, we're gonna do this. Please standardize it so we know what the heck you're doing.
If no work materializes, then we can interpret.
Yes. Well,
For a moment, you found another collection of dependencies.
Yeah. Well, that was the momentary fear I had, is I didn't want to accidentally add 4566 bits to the.
Make sure it works. Oh, that reminded me, Martin. Second solution.
okay.
Yes. Yeah, I just talked to these guys about this before.
So eventually,
Go forward. I'm not deciding necessarily with them. I actually wanted to ask another question, which is, are you certain that you lawfully?
Crystal?
It's very hard to mount. For it's.
If we have a maybe next week or something like that.
I just have comments on hard to mount.
I just have to go push a button.
Yeah, I didn't get all of it either, but I mean, I think we all got the gist of it.
and even somehow,
Yeah.
there is moments where the system of dispatch or using organization.
I don't know.
I think it's really no questions. I guess.
I like the better version of the sauce. I see. What was the last for? What? Oh, STP on the t-shirt? I think it's called STP sauce.
I'm gonna ask them arbitrary.
I